Hello, it's Dusty again. You are probably wondering, assuming you got your slip knot on your hook or needle, well, what happens now? So I'm going to show you. Now, assuming you've either watched the video or already know how, you're going to start with that slip stitch. Slip knot. Which I messed up, so don't feel bad if you do. Now, from here, in terms of crochet, you're going to create a chain of stitches. It's basically a bunch of slip stitches in a chain. I'm going to show you first with just my hands what we're going to do. Let me get that off. So we get our slip knot, making sure that the feed yarn, which is coming from the yarn or ball or cake or whatever you're using, is the one that you pull to control the size of the stitch. I'm just going to hold that out of the way. Now, just to demonstrate what we're actually mechanically doing, we are just taking that feed yarn and sticking it through the loop, and then we let go of the loop. And then we're going to take it again. We're going to take the new loop that we made and put the feed yarn through it. And then we're going to take it again and put the feed yarn through that one. Now, this is not even at all because I'm using my hands, but this is a chain stitch. So that's what we're doing. We're using a hook. So again, I'm going to down, around, pull that through for our, whoops, maybe not. A little harder to do looking through a phone. And I'm going to pull the short one to make it tight. And I'm going to tuck the tail out of the way. You don't have to, it's just, otherwise sometimes it gets caught up. So what we're going to do is what I just did with my hands, but we're going to do it with the hook. Okay, so here's our slip knot. So I like to keep it over here, over my finger. But you can just drop it, and if that's easier. But it helps to keep track of it because otherwise it kind of gets floppy everywhere. So, I do keep my fingers on the knot. It's not necessary. I do feed this over my finger. Again, not necessary, whatever you're able to do. But the goal is to get that yarn around the hook and pull it through the existing stitch. And you're going to make it snug, just to the size of the hook. You don't want its death grip on it because that will be, well, unpleasant first off. Second, you won't get any kind of regularity in your stitches. Now, something to make sure of is to get all the plies of the yarn. Make sure that you get your hook when you're going through the stitches. Make sure you get all the plies where they're supposed to be, because this is a 4-ply yarn, and most of them are. And when you do this and pull it through, you want to make sure you get all plies of the feed yarn through all plies of the existing stitch. Okay, I'm going to do that again, but now I'm going to move my hand up to the stitch I just made. And I usually go down between these two fingers. You don't have to. Again, you can just flip it over. It's easier when it goes in this direction, for me. However you need to do it. But you're going to just, again, pull the feed yarn through the previous stitch. And then move your hand up a little bit. Wrap the yarn around the hook so you can get it through there easier. And make sure that you don't miss any plies or get hooked on it. And just pull it to the size of the hook. Now we have 3 stitches. Okay, I'm going to do it again, and I'm guiding it with this finger. But you can just do that if you need to, and pull it through. But make sure that you pull the feed yarn so that it's snug, but not too tight, against the hook. So now we got a chain going. Around and through, around and through. And I'll take it at a different angle of what I'm doing. I'm going around and through. And again, that's just around and through. Now, if you put it down and pick it up again, make sure when you're working that if you touch this, you can see there's kind of a lumpy side and a smooth side. The smooth side actually looks like little loops, and the other side looks like sort of lines, and you can feel the difference. So it's not critical, but if you make sure you're working on the same smooth side, is that the smooth side is facing you, you're going to get a much more even texture, which is going to be important because we're not just going to do a chain forever. We're going to come back over it and make something else. So for now, we're just going to wrap it and pull it through. Wrap it, maybe, and pull it through. Again, if you want to drop it, you can do that. Sometimes that's a little harder. Not everybody can hold the yarn in the same way, and that's fine. Wrap it, oops, and pull it through. So this is a chain, and this is the basis of most crochet pieces ever. Unless you're using magic loop, of course, but this is where you start. Most things say with start chain 12 or chain 14 or whatever. I don't know how many this is. I'm taking a guess. Okay. If we want to progress to the next row, I'll do one extra chain that isn't going to count. That's our turning spot. For crochet, you always have to crochet one extra slip stitch. Otherwise, at the end, before you turn around, otherwise it starts to get smaller and smaller. So now, I'm going to do almost the same thing. I'm going to poke it through, and you'll see there's two pieces here of the loop, and one just a little thing that goes through it. Just go through one of them on this base row. Okay, I'm going to pull one through, and now I have two. So it's a little more complicated than the chain stitch. So again, here's my chain stitch, and I'm not going to go through the one that my current stitch is in. I'm going to go through the next one. Just pop it through, and however you're feeding the yarn, do that. Pull it through the base of the work. Okay, then we're going to pull the feed yarn through both of these stitches, and that is a single crochet. Okay, and we'll do the next one. Okay, make sure you keep the smooth side towards you. Okay, I'm going to not go through this one because that's an increase. I'm going to go through the next one, poke it through, pull that yarn through, and now I have two. I'm going to wrap it again and pull this through both of them, making sure to get all the plies through. So now that's another single crochet. So I'm going to skip the one I'm in, and again, go to the next one. Get the yarn around the hook, pull it through, and then pull it through both of these. Again, I'm going to skip the one I'm already in, go to the next one, pull it through, and then bring it through both of them. Okay, skipping this one, because that's the one I've already done. I'm going to poke it through. Now I've got two. Pull it through both. So unlike knitting, you usually only ever have, ultimately when you finish a stitch, you have one loop on the hook. All right, let's see. So we finished that one. Pardon my cat. I'm going to pull it through, and then pull it through both. Okay, we're going to pull it through the work, and that's, right now it's just a chain, but that's the work. Okay, pull it through both. Single crochet. I'm going to go to the end, and then we're going to turn around. it through. Oops, pull it through. Oops, see how I grabbed just part of it and it got all wrinkled and gross? So that's why we don't want to do that. Pull it through the base, the work, and then pull it through both of the stitches on the needle. Oops, I am having some trouble with the yarn splitting. You can simply pull it, make sure you've got all of them, and bring that to the size of the needle. If you can't, you can simply undo the stitch. And by that, you just pull the needle out, or the hook out, and then just back up to where you had the last successful stitch. Okay, and I'm going to do that one again because it got all messy. I'm going to go through the base of the work, pull that through from the feed line, and pull the feed yarn through both. Another single crochet. Next stitch in the base, pull it through, pull it through both. Now, if you want to if you are not able to hold both and you want to just let it go, you can do that. You can just push this through the base and then pull it through. But you're going to need to tug at it to make sure it doesn't get too big. And then we're going to pull it through both. And right now, it's probably not going to look even because you're just starting. But as you practice, kind of get used to it. Pull and pull. Your gauge will reveal itself ultimately. And what that means is the size of the stitches and how many stitches per inch and so on. And so it's going to change with size of needle and size of yarn and so on, and also how tightly you hold it. So you want your stitch to be even. You want your gauge to match itself. Like this stitch should be about the same size as this stitch, and so on. So it doesn't need to look exactly like I'm doing because you may be using a different needle or a different yarn. And I've used a variegated yarn so everybody can see it. And it's just a matter of practice. Your stitches may or may not match the number of stitches on a given pattern or a given. The yarn also will come with a label that has the gauge on it. Yours may vary, so test swatches are important, but that's another video. Okay, so we're at the last stitch. I'm going to pull it through, pull it once, and then pull it through both. And see that tail is just getting in my way. Okay, so we have gone through and made the whole second row, the chain stitch being the first row. Okay, so now we need to turn. And for crochet, as I said, you always need to slip a stitch before you turn, otherwise you're gonna shrink. And here's why. If I just turn it without a slip stitch, I can't just go back in this stitch because it'll undo itself. So we make a slip stitch so that we can go back in this one. That's the slip stitch. So here, so this is stitch 1. And I'm going to do the same thing, but before I do that, again, you see how I've got my little slip here? Without that, I couldn't just go back in this one, the first one. Now we're not going to try and crochet in our slip stitch. We're going to go to the first real stitch right here. And I'll show you that slip stitch again, just to make sure. Slip stitch is just, you're just pulling the yarn through the hole, like you did with the chain. Okay, and we do that at the end of every crochet row, unless we're going around in a circle. Okay, so now you see how this has like a little loop? You can see the whole loop, and each loop has 2 pieces, this one and that one. Now when you're doing this, you have after the chain row, you have to go through both sides of this stitch. So when you have it through here, you should see both parts of that prior loop. And you're gonna get the yarn around the hook and just pull it through. And then as before, pull it through both. So you have 1 stitch on the hook. So we're gonna go to the next one. And again, we gotta catch both of these. Both sides of the prior stitch. And we're gonna just pull it through both. and then we're going to pull it through both of the pieces on our hook. Okay. Sometimes it helps to stretch the yarn around, move it around a little bit. Sometimes it comes with little fuzzy bits, and that's, you just have to ignore those or clip them off. So I'm going to go through both sides of the next stitch, and you can always turn the work to see how you're doing, but don't try to work it in that direction, because it'll be crazy. So I pulled one, and I'm going to pull the feed yarn through both, and I have a cake here, a yarn cake. So again, and this one's a little loose because it is. All right, so I'm going to put it through both of these and make sure I catch all of the plies, and then I'm going to pull it through both of the ones on my hook. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to see how I've got them both on there, both sides of the prior stitch, and I'm going to pull it through both sides of the prior stitch, pull it through both. All right, both stitches, they're both sides of the prior stitch, pull it through, and pull it through again, and we're almost at the end. Okay, both sides, pull it through once, oops, pull it through twice. And again, don't be afraid to back up and do it again. If it feels wonky, or you think you missed one of the plies or something, you can always just undo it. Tug it gently, and exercise control when you when you yank it out, or you lose the whole thing. Oops, sorry, got interrupted there. All right, so again, we're pulling it through both sides of the prior stitch, and through both stitches that we got on our hook. Oops. And I'm going to show you another turnaround when we get to the end, which is very soon. Oops. All right, next to the last stitch, pull it through. Okay, now here at the end, we want to make sure we get through the last stitch, but not the slip stitch we used to turn. So there's going to be a little extra bit there. Okay, so that's, see how our ends are the same length? We've got a little kind of a line there along the side. If you forget to do that slip stitch before you turn, it will start to shrink inward. And then if you actually try to crochet into the slip stitch, it's gonna get wider. So this is our basic piece, and you can make this as long or as wide as you want. You can practice on a square, make say 30 stitches and just crochet back and forth, single crochet back and forth until you've got a square, and then hey, you got a pot holder. And to end this, ending crochet is pretty easy. You just give yourself some length, maybe use the cutters properly, pull it through, and there, it's pretty well secured. And if I didn't cover anything, if you have questions, of course, leave a comment. Thanks.